Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. It's Tuesday night. Welcome to another edition of In the Prog Seat. And in the seats tonight, we've got Chuck Alvarez, we've got George Lamie, and we've got Luis Nasser. We've got the New York and the Chicago contingent tonight working for you. So our task this evening is to come up with some of those best last albums. So prog rock, prog metal, jazz fusion bands who maybe they had a lot of albums, not a lot of albums, but when they went out, their last album, they went out with style. So in most cases, these bands are pretty much done for the most part, at least that we know. So if they released a really good last album, they were up for consideration. We've each picked 5. We're going to go Luis, George, Chuck, and myself, and we'll continue going around until we get to number 1. So Luis, what do you got for number 5?
All right, so I'm going to start with something that's probably not very well known to people in general. It is an instrumental progressive trio from Milwaukee. They're called Kopecky, and I love those guys, and I'm also very good friends with them. They ended their career because there were the 3 brothers, and Paul, the drummer, died. So this was the last album they did as a band. It's called Blood. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually not that easy to read, but Kopecky Blood. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. It is. If people want to hear this, I believe they have a Bandcamp, but you can also get it through the Musea label if they're still around. And William Kopecky is very much known. You know, he plays in a lot of bands. He's done a lot of stuff. So, yeah, if anybody's interested, I would be happy to get them in touch with them so they can get the music. It is not their most popular album, but it also happens to be my favorite. So they did 5 studio albums, and this is my personal favorite. But I just love this thing, and it's very meaningful because I was good friends with them, and I just love these guys. So,
Kopecky, that's a very good one, actually. It's yeah. And William, I mean, God, he's done so much. He and I chat so often, and like he's like, I got this other project I'm working on. I'm like, what a surprise, William.
Far Corner, the haiku nightmare that he has, because he lived in Marseille in France for years. He got married, he moved. I don't know what's happening with that. You know, things are volatile, but you know, he's always doing stuff. He played with Parlind for a while.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
So that he's always busy, and he's a brilliant musician. His brother Joe is damn good too.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like a very tasty guitar player. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Great choice. All right, George, what do you got?
All right. Mine's also an instrumental prog band from Canada. Spaced Out.
Nice.
They got the most albums on my list tonight. 6 albums.
6 albums.
This is heavy prog with a little fusiony edge, but real heavy stuff, especially this album. Out of all their albums, I think they ended with their heaviest. Well, basically a trio, although they do have guest keyboard soloists, including Alex Argento. It's like the Jens Johansson of Italy. Yeah, it's just slamming stuff. Anybody that doesn't know what they're about, a more metallic Planet X, I would say.
Yeah.
So you're in the ballpark. But yeah, check them out. Spaced Out.
That's crazy. I didn't know they had broken up. I saw that the bass player released this album with Gavin Harrison.
He went solo. He's got like 8 solo albums now.
I see. So okay, I understand.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd argue that last album might be in their top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I love that record. It's great.
If I had one detraction, I would say the guitar player, maybe he's not at the level of everybody else. And maybe, you know, he's not much for dueling with that kind of a thing. So you miss that element, but otherwise, it's great.
Yeah.
Cool choice. All right, Chuck.
Right. My number 5 is an art rock band that I love very much. Roxy Music's last album, Avalon. All right, Avalon. What's a bit dreamy, a bit onto the sophisticated pop of the 80s, but a bit more towards the, you know, it still has that that art rock flair. You know, being that I'm a big Roxy Music fan, that's the album. That's my number 5 right there. Mhm.
I'd also say that's one of their best, in my opinion.
It's a great album. It's a great ender.
What's that, George?
I said I'm thirsty, Chuck. Who used to be in that band?
Eddie Jobson.
I need to go get a drink. I'm not prepared. God damn it.
Oh, get prepared. Come on. It's been a few weeks since you've been on the show, man. Come on. Anthony, you are here in spirit.
Oh man! Don't forget the Gavin Harrison too. So
yeah. Well, you know what? I almost wasn't going to do this. I'll wait. All right, I'll wait for Lewis to get back. I almost wasn't going to do this because it would have been too obvious, but I'm going to do it anyway because we're laughing about it. Yeah. How about this one right here?
Yes.
I mean, they only have 2 studio albums. This is their last. It's a damn good one. Danger.
It really is.
Of course. Who's in this band?
Oh, Eddie Jobson.
Eddie. Anthony, we love you. Here we go. God, if we were all drinking booze, we'd be drunk already. All right. So,
oh man.
Well, we'd just be starting.
We'd just be starting. Okay. But I think that's going to be the only time we're going to hear his name tonight. So we got him twice off. All right. So back to Lewis.
All right. So for my number 4, I want to go with this band. I love it. Colosseum 2.
Oh, great.
War Dance.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I love that album.
Anybody who digs Gary Moore, Don Airy, I mean, this is just a
John Heisman.
phenomenal band. Great album. What a way to go out. Colosseum 2, War Dance. With John Heisman, the drummer, who read all of the songs too. Brilliant band. I love you guys.
Yep.
You know what? Those Colosseum 2 albums are so amazing. I just never understood why they wanted to throw vocals on like a.
I'm with you there. Yeah.
But it should. But that doesn't take away from the brilliance that is contained on those. And I sometimes, and I'm even guilty of it myself when you're talking about like those great '70s fusion bands. For some reason, I always forget to include them, but they are like just as lethal. Maybe because it came a little later, as RTF and Mahavishnu and all those other bands. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if you talk about like a melt your face track, the Dark Side of the Moog.
Oh yeah.
Greater Than Flesh. I mean, that's about as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was an amazing band, man.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Some guys could fly on that album. That album is real heavy.
Yeah.
It has like a bit more polish of a more polished Mahavishnu orchestra, if I could say that, without the violins.
Without the violin, yeah. Exactly. Good stuff. All right, George.
All right. Speaking of 70s fusion, my only fusion one of the night from Spain, Iceberg.
Yes.
Oh yes. That's a good album. Another one.
Yeah.
Arc NCL.
Yes.
What is that? Arc in Heaven, Luis?
Can you repeat the title?
Arc NCL.
Yeah, that's in French. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So the bow in the sky, bow in the heaven.
Yeah, they had 5 albums. The first one is prog, and then the last 4 are Latin fusion in the RTF category. This one to me is the most Latin-y, and not quite as good as their masterpiece, Sentiments, but probably my next favorite. I think it's the best produced of all of them, and closes out the 70s in fine fashion. This is from '79. Iceberg. Arc NCL.
Great underrated band. Like another one of those.
Yeah, that I like that album.
That nobody talks about.
One of my favorite Moog soloists, Joseph Mas. He's great.
Great band.
Now that I agree with. That album is pretty good. Pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, Chuck, back to you.
Oh, I was going to be the one that was going to throw a monkey wrench into this over here. I bet this is probably an album that we're all going to pick right now. The last album with Rush, Clockwork Angels, perhaps their finest work since if you could ever close out a career, that album right there, you know, just to listen to it brings tears to my eyes. It's one of the best albums that they've ever done. Not just the fact that they did it during this era, but I'm talking about like it's up there in their top 10, if not top 5, in my opinion. The Clockwork Angels, Rush.
Yep, those on my longer list too. And I've been listening to that and Snakes and Arrows a lot lately, and they're both really strong.
They really are.
Yeah. Cool. Good choice. All right. Third and last album from this Dutch band. Great one. Instrumental band. Kind of fusion-y, prog fusion, whatever the hell you want to call it. Finch, Galleons of Passion.
Good album.
Great album. I mean, these guys, just a tremendous guitar playing and keyboard playing. Just so good. Long, lengthy tracks. You know, their first 2 albums are the ones that most people gravitate towards, but this is really, really strong too. And it's a fine way to go at. It's too bad we didn't get more from these guys, because just tremendous musicians, really melodic kind of musical passages. And the songs, even though they are instrumental, they're very memorable, which is important, I think. So yeah, Finch, Galleons of Passion. My next choice.
Beautiful. All right. So my number 3 is going to be Mahavishnu, The Lost Trident Sessions.
Yes.
I love this record.
So do I.
I just love this record. I think, and this was actually, I never realized for the longest time that this was such a, I guess I'm stupid. I never put together the fact that the Lost Trident Sessions meant it was their last album. I thought it was, you know, my current album that they just decided for a playful reason to call it that. But I love this record so much. I've always regretted deeply never having had the chance to see this band, or even McLaughlin for that matter. I had it when he was around and he came. I was on tour and I had to miss it. So I love this album. I love this band, and I think that this was their last studio album. And this is a great one. So Mahavishnu Orchestra, The Lost Trident Sessions.
So let's clarify, because Lewis is pulling the Catino tonight. So that is that is the final album from the classic lineup of Mahavishnu. They would reconvene under a completely different lineup using the name. That's okay.
That was that's what I consider Mahavishnu. There were many other Mahavishnu hybrids, Mahavishnu hydras, whatever. But these
all right,
guys,
if you're pulling a Nasser, I get it. Okay, that's fine. It's a killer album, though.
I love that album. You know, there are a lot of people that don't like the unpolished version of it, because, you know, they said that there was supposed to be like some type of orchestra backing and more horns on it. I'm just glad the way they have it. Man, I love that album. I probably play that album more than probably I prefer the live versions, but I still listen to that quite a bit. You know, so that's an excellent pick right there. One that I would.
What balls it took though for them to go and play that concert in Central Park in New York City and playing those songs that nobody ever heard before. That stuff is like raw and uncompromising, right?
The power.
Oh my God, out of control.
What I loved about them is that, you know, whether it's prog rock, jazz fusion, whatever, they never forgot the most important element. It has to rock.
Yes, and they rocked.
Yes.
Dawn.
Choice. Oh, man, Dawn is killer. All right, George, back to you.
My number 3. Planet X. Quantum.
Oh, yeah.
Their album. They
went out for bang there.
Yeah, they actually never broke up, but the conditions they put on themselves to ever get together again are not going to happen. So basically, this is all you're going to get. Yeah, it's just completely great instrumental prog, heavy, odd meter. Like Donati is one of the great writers in this genre, even more so than the drumming, which is ridiculous. The writing is just so different. I mean, he's got a total personality of his own. Even his solo albums after this are in that same vein and just got that identity to him. Great lineup too. There's a couple guest solos from Mr. Holdsworth. Brett Garsett is on the rest of it. And of course, Derek Sherinian and Donati. And bass is split up, mostly guesting Rufus Philpott and Jimmy Johnson. But yeah, It's as good as the other ones, if not some people it's their favorite, and I wouldn't say otherwise. So
Well, it's a damn good album.
They never put out a weak one.
No,
You know, now that you mention that was a part that was really hard about this assignment, because there are bands that they haven't worked in many, many years, but they never really broke up or anything. Right? So then, how do
in
you
my
know?
head, I said 10 years minimum to be done. No albums
Right.
before I picked.
Yeah, 10 years is a good good
and that they haven't done anything since 2000 and
It's 2007.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's kind of like another band and guy, which we may talk about soon, so I won't mention his name yet. But Derek has done a fine solo career, right? So it's almost like he's like, well, it's like it's kind of still Planet X-y without the Planet X name, right? And that it being like a set band. So
Correct. So
But the standard I saw them put on themselves is for them to do another one, they want 4 months of uninterrupted time to work the songs out in a studio. For that to happen, they wouldn't be working anywhere else. So they need label support, and it's these.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. So
Luis, were you at the Near Fest where they played at?
yes, I was.
I was gonna ask the same question.
And that was pretty amazing.
They were great.
Yeah.
I also saw Planet X play at a club in Virginia called Jack's,
Wow.
and they were just amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly that Derek Sherinian, who's an amazing musician, he seemed very upset there were so few people at the venue.
Oh, see,
He
that's
was having like one of these mini crises. The way you walk into the venue, there's a ramp, but there are people that sit above you. So I just leaned over and I said, "Dude, you're Derek Sherinian. Go play. It's fine." It looked like, "Who the hell?" But it was very they killed, right? So it was a very very nice thing that happened.
Yeah, great band. I'm trying to remember who played bass when we saw them at Near Fest. I don't remember.
I think it was it wasn't Phil Johnson. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was someone
that
else.
guy.
Yeah, I don't
No.
remember. Because it
That
was
wasn't-
McAlpine and it was Donati.
Well,
Derek.
yeah.
what
Well,
year?
now I have to look it up.
What year? I don't. What 2004
4,
maybe? Yeah.
I think
Is this
2004.
another one of those where we have a case of the olds?
I've been feeling like that all day.
Oh man. Yeah.
What's your best guess, George?
Tom Kennedy.
Tom Kennedy? Yeah, it might be.
I saw him once, I think like 02, where they had just gotten a new bass player, and the show was starting late. They let us in the lobby because it was the fall. It was chilly out. They let us in the lobby, and we could hear them running through the material, and they were tearing this bass player up because he wasn't on it. It was him and McAlpine. McAlpine and him were just killing this guy, and everybody out in the lobby can hear it. This guy was named Kevin Freebie. He didn't last. Maybe that's why, because he didn't want to keep getting tortured by these guys.
Yeah, it's got to be a tough band to be in, man. That's
Oh, man.
Especially without much preparation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not too many people could do an Alan White.
No.
All right, Chuck.
All right. This one should make Brother Anthony happy. It's the last album from a great UK band, A Nod and a Wink from the band Cabal.
Ah.
What's that? Their stuff started becoming a bit more melodic. I think this is the album that they toured a few of the songs here in the United States. And I think that they played a few songs when they appeared here in Near Fest.
Oh yeah.
What's with these guys? They haven't done anything in a long time since being that Andrew Latimer had been sick for so long. But now I think that they said that they might be putting something together within the near future, but Lord knows when that's going to happen. So right now, the last thing that they have out here is A Nod and a Wink, and it's still a fine album.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
2002.
Yeah. All right. This was also been a long time. This, I think, was, hold on, let me check my date here, 2004. And they played at Nearfest not too long before this. And they still, if you go on their Wikipedia page, it still says there might be things simmering in the Happy the Man camp, but it's been a million years. They've got all these other projects going on. Quite honestly, I think we've seen the last of Happy the Man. But The Muse Awakens is a fine album, I think.
It is.
Definitely, you know, I mean, they've obviously grown up, and it's been, you know, their last album was what, in the late 70s, so a lot of years in between. But they got Frank Wyatt on board, Stanley Whitaker, David Rosenthal
from Rainbow. Right.
And now with Billy Joel, right? So Joe Bergami on drums and Rick Kennel on bass, and it's a fine album. It's proggy, it's fusiony, it's, you know, it's maybe a little lighter than some of the early. It's not as fiery as some of the early Happy the Man stuff. It still has that kind of quirky, almost Canterbury-ish flavor. It's kind of jazzy, like I said. Tasty keyboards and guitars. I like it. I think it's a fine album, and I listened to this a ton when it came out, and I was so psyched that they were back, and then crickets since. So
well, you know, this is a band that refuses to tour. You know, these guys all have like they all have jobs, and they're like, you know, their family life comes first.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. I mean, it really is. I can tell you, it's hard. It's not like there's a ton of money waiting for you out there, right?
No.
Especially in the prog world.
Yeah. So you just have to find a way to do it with people who love it as much as you do, and you have to learn to do it in short bursts. You can't just stay on the road, because then the family life becomes problematic.
Yep. All right, back to Louis.
Okay, my number 2 is a band that I love. I actually discovered this during the pandemic when I started watching this channel, and I began compulsively watching everything that was on it. I'm talking, of course, the band is a progressive death metal band, Death, and this is The Sound of Perseverance.
What a great choice.
And I can be sure this is it, because Chuck is no more, right? So that would be one hell of a return if he actually pulled that off. Not to make light of his passing or anything. I know that this is the environment in which we now live. I'm just saying, with great respect and love for the man. Music means the world to me. And this,
Chuck was a visionary with it. Absolutely, yeah. Chuck
he really was
terrific. You know, I love it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Death albums, and it is very different from all the other ones that came before it. But that's
they had some strong albums. They had some strong albums before it. That's a pretty good album.
Yeah. Well, that one's a little less very musical. I mean, the guitar work and the drumming on that album.
I was just about to say the drumming, but the rhythm section itself. The rhythm section is very tight.
Yeah, Richard Christie was a hell of a drummer. Another guy. What's he been doing? It's like
Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And then you have the Giorgio.
Steve Giorgio is fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, that guy. Yeah. The fact that he's not more of a household name is all you need to know to understand why it's so hard to tour.
Yeah. I heard rumors that he's the new guy in Megadeth. Is that confirmed or no? I don't even know.
No.
I have not heard that.
No. No. They actually, the thing is that he was considered, but they haven't made that.
No.
They haven't made it there.
Well, I know he's finishing up the new Spirits of Fire album with Chris Caffrey and company and Mark Zonder.
Yeah. I mean, that would make me sad, because I think he was a great fit in Testament.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it's like you're getting a guy whose talent is going to be sort of wasted.
Yeah. I'd stick with Testament if I were him. Yeah.
Yep. And I heard an interview with the singer from Terra Odium, and he says that is going to be an ongoing band. That is going to be a member. So
wow. Okay. Well, hey, cool if you can do it, right?
More power to him.
Yeah. All right, number 2 for George.
All right. Multinational band here. Arc.
Okay.
Sun. Their debut was put out by a friend of the show, sometimes collaborator, Ken Golden. It's basically the brainchild of guitar player Tor Osby from Conception, and drummer John Macaluso has been in way too many bands. But first album was very good. But people complained about it because it was Ken just put the demos out. They didn't re-record it. This album's better sound, although I never cared about the sound on the first one. They got Randy Coven to play fretless bass on this. That's a big upgrade.
Yeah.
The first album had no bass on a lot of tracks. But the thing with this band is just each guy in the band has an individual sound. Jordan sounds like Coverdale vocally, but his style is way different. He takes a lot of risks. I mean, he's kind of a wild man, but with that sounding voice.
He's got the aggression of a Ronnie James Dio, but yet he has that swagger of Coverdale. That's the way I always explain the way, to me anyway, that's how he sounds.
He'll do
Incredible
some
singer.
eccentric sounding things like, just weird noises and stuff. I mean, it's an interesting. The songwriting just sets it apart. It doesn't sound like any other prog band. I mean, that's why some people argue that it's not progressive, but that's just silly. It definitely.
No, it has its prog moments. If not, actually, it's pretty much prog.
It is totally. But some people, they hear Jordan's voice is a little commercial because it sounds like Coverdale or whatever. There's not like extended jamming on any of this stuff. I think there's one longer song, and that's the softy song, a long ballad. But I mean, just get it.
That's right. I don't even want to get into is it prog. I just want to say it's damn good, and it definitely fits the criteria for the final album that is just amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
So stoked! I actually saw him at Prog Power 2. That was great. I mean,
I forgot they played at that. Yeah,
the best band there. I don't know. They were really good.
I'm gonna listen to that tonight. You the man, George.
I haven't heard that in years. I have it. That's good. Yeah, that's a 4.5 on the softy meter.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, okay.
One song, and it's at the end. They did us a favor, put it at the end.
There you go.
Oh man.
That's great. They should do that live if they ever play it live. They say, "Well, we're gonna play that one at the end, so we're gonna beat the traffic."
There you go.
make it to the exit. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh shucks.
All right, Chuck.
All right, my number 2 is 41 years old now. Gentle Giants, Civilian. It's one of the more underrated albums. Which people were expecting, the band to fold after A Giant of a Day, but Civilian just picked up right where their greatness was at before. Probably their most underrated album in their entire collection. It's a brilliant album. There's so many great songs on here. I yet to hear a dud on there. I still have this on vinyl actually somewhere. I still have it on vinyl. Gentle Giants' last one from 1980, Civilian.
Here's my take of Civilian. I had it in reserves here. I'm glad you picked it because now I can pick another one for my next one. But I think after Giant for a Day, which I'm not a fan of, it's like the only album in the catalog that I really don't care for much. A couple of good songs, but I think Giant for a Day basically said, all right, the world is transitioning. This genre is transitioning. It's 1980. We got to change the way we're doing things or we just fade away. So they put this album out, which I think captures the spirit of the earlier Gentle Giant, but it's got this newfound commercialism, for lack of a better word. It still sounds like Gentle Giant, but it's a little more easy listening for audiences as we move into this new decade. And I always thought that, kind of like what Rush did, like what Genesis did, what Yes did, they changed their sound a little bit to move into the new decade, to open up to different audiences because everything's changing. And I thought Civilian did exactly the same thing, but the key was the band didn't want to do that kind of music. And they were like, this is not who we are. That's it.
And that's
it. It's a shame because I think that was the perfect let's move into the 80s album.
I had 2 coworkers that actually saw them live during that tour, and they said they were just unbelievable. So just imagine seeing these guys, and their hearts weren't in it. They were like, "Listen, we're not for this."
No,
that's so strange because I think that if you compare that to some of the other bands that changed their sound, I think that they were the ones who did it most convincingly in their old style.
Yes,
Right?
I agree. I agree.
It's a great
Yeah.
record. Like that. I don't think that record has an asterisk next to it.
No,
Right? It's just a really good record, and
Because
everybody loves to crap on it. I don't know why, but I
Oh
just
man.
love it. And I'm really glad you picked it because I can't believe I forgot about it. So, thank you.
All right, my number two, again, going back to who were we talking about before? Planet X and Derek Sherinian, right? So I mentioned there's another guy who had a really cool band that was actually kind of popular. He decided to fold the band and just basically do solo albums. And he's doing very, very well, but he's leaving the door open potentially for the old band, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Doubt it.
Porcupine Tree. The Incident is the last album. It's a damn good one. Has this band ever made a bad album? Probably not.
No.
But their brand of kind of psychedelic poppy, prog, little bits of hard rock and metal. I mean, they kind of had this weird mishmash of styles all throughout their career. This is another great one. And, I remember when this came out, we were all excited. Another great Porcupine Tree album. And then before you know it, the years start going by. We start seeing all these Steven Wilson solo albums. We're like, I don't think we're going to get any more Porcupine Tree. And he's basically like, yeah, I kind of moved on from that.
He has, and it's a shame. It really is a shame.
I don't see him going back, to be honest with you.
No, I don't know.
Everybody wants it. I don't see it happening, to be honest with you.
The only way he will do it is if he releases two more, like the last solo record, and they don't.
Nobody buys them, right?
Then he's gonna suddenly find his love back for this catalog and is gonna be doing it again. I didn't pick that as much as I like it because our friend Ferraro punked me a while back, and he started sending these photos of this Steven Wilson, trademark thing, where it was himself, Harrison, the keyboard player, Barbieri, and then that was it. There was no bass player in that thing, right? And that made me think that there was something going to maybe happen. I thought it made me think that he had such a shock to the system with a Future Bites or whatever that thing is called, that he wanted to maybe look into it, like hedge his bets. But so I thought, well, that's probably not. I mean, I'm not sure that they're done.
My thing is that I hope not, and so because there's just so much that I'm probably like a late convert to Porcupine Tree. I've always, because I personally, I'm probably like one of the few people in so that love his solo stuff, but you can't get away from the amazing things that he did with Porcupine Tree.
Usually commerce is the only thing that pushes you back, but his fans buy it. He put out an album of farts and they would buy it. So there's no motivation.
Yeah.
He made
the same with the Yes fans. Yes fans will buy a dead cat with a Yes logo on.
Oh man.
Do the solo albums and you can keep using the musicians you want and you're in charge. Why go?
Yeah. It's too bad though. I remember I saw him when he first began coming to the States. He played in a record store in Maryland before he even did Nearfest and all that. And he was like, he's always been that guy. He's just so full of hustle, right?
Yeah.
And just taking risks financially, and he was devoted like a monk. Like I've never seen anybody who had that level of devotion. Like that guy, that's all he did all day, every day.
Yep.
And he wasn't making money at the time, but he was just out there, So I was very happy when he got signed to Atlantic, and then he just took off, and I thought, come on, that's great,
But you know what? They didn't really know what to do with him, unfortunately.
Well, no, and I remember that he was in a big financial trouble after in absentia, because they had been touring on the label's dime, but they were still owing a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's such a great album.
They released, Deadwing, that finally they turned the corner. So yeah, he had it rough for a while, but that dude is awesome.
Now he's remixing and remastering all these classic albums.
Yeah, now he's hit the critical mass where now, it just comes to him, right?
Yeah.
But he's doing a great job. Well, some people don't like his King Crimson stuff, but I think he's done some awesome stuff, man.
Yeah, I think he's done a spectacular job on most of the things he's worked on.
Mhm.
You know, it's an alternate way to listen to some of these albums in some cases. You know, some of them I think he did a really great job on an album that needed it. Others, you know, maybe it doesn't sound that much different, you know, or maybe the
Benefit.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, Lewis, your top.
All right.
pick.
Well, my number one was of course going to be Rush, but in the spirit of keeping, I mean, what can I say about this? This is a perfect record.
It really
It is
is,
the
man.
most
Mhm.
ideal way to end the career of this band, of the three of them.
Mhm.
And what a closer, The Garden, right?
Yeah. Mhm. Oh,
It's absolutely a majestic. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But since we would like to keep things going and alert people to things they may not have heard, I was thinking, and again, I don't want to pull too many Catinos or Nassers. I'm not sure how this rates. However, to me, Frank Zappa, the Yellow Shark,
yeah.
that was the last one that came out while he was still alive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it is sufficiently different from the studio versions. And
Mhm.
some of them are new, where I would call this a valid entry. I think this thing is amazing. The
Mhm.
only one I would substitute in place of this would be Civilization Part 3, which was the immediate follow-up.
Mhm.
If that was posthumous. And then you have that whole slew of other things that have happened that I don't know if he would approve. I know that he was behind that one. It just, the timing didn't work.
Mhm.
But for me, I don't know. There's just something about this record that has always, you know, call me sentimental, but you know, G-Spot Tornado is awesome.
Yeah. Mhm. It's always been a great song.
It is just a fantastic recording. It's just everything about this. And the thing that I like the most about it is that you can actually contact the orchestra who did this, and you can purchase all the arrangements.
Oh, you can. Oh.
So if you're a music nerd like me,
Mhm.
you can actually get them and study them.
Oh,
Fantastic.
excellent. Mhm. Mhm.
Awesome.
That'll be my number one choice, Frank.
Oh man,
You go
another
wrong with
guy.
Frank, man. I tell you.
No.
One of my top 5, man. I miss him dearly, man.
That was another thing. My big life regrets. I never had a chance to see. Well, I had a chance to see him live, and I blew it.
Me too.
And the reason
Never
was
saw him
first in Mexico with the orchestra, and at that time I was just a kid, and I would I was into Maiden and these things, and that was sort of the music that lived in my head and that I thought I could write and play. And when I first encountered Zappa, this was the first time I heard something that was so way beyond my abilities and so far beyond my scheme that I just pretend like, okay, this didn't happen. I just couldn't handle it. Like, okay, denial, pure denial. So when he came and he was rehearsing with an orchestra, it wasn't a public concert, but I would have been able to hear the rehearsal. Can you imagine that? Yeah. And like the complete idiot that I am, I passed. And then years later, when I'm already a devoted fan, he dies, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
No chance. So.
Yeah, I had many opportunities in the 80s to see him too, and I didn't go because I was too busy going to see Slayer and Metallica and Judas Priest and Maiden and all that stuff. Because that's, but I was like, I'll have plenty of time to go see Zappa. He's okay, whatever. And then as soon as I start to get into him big time, he's gone.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right, George, what's your top pick here today?
Sun Cage.
Oh wow, geez, great choice.
Nice.
Wow.
From the Netherlands, except for the singer's an American. My Facebook friend, Paul Adrian Villarreal.
Marcel.
Marcel Koenen. Been around since the mid-90s. This band formed in the early 2000s. This is the third and final one, and it's the best one. They just got better and better on their records. Dream Theater influenced prog. Just one of those long albums. It's like over 70 minutes, and I actually still want it to keep going after that. That's how good it is. This is completely great all the way through. They actually recorded their final show for a DVD release, and there was a technical issue, so it's never going to see the light of day, which is a real shame because this band had huge potential, I think. Sun Caged.
Yeah, one of the most underrated progressive metal acts of their time.
Yep.
George pulling out the stuff, man.
I love that. album.
John, sir. But the other day you pulled the Angra. That was so good. Very nice.
All
right, Chuck, what do you got?
All right, my number one, is an album that's usually it's more of a transitional album. I know it's an album that you're not too crazy about, Peter, but it's one of my favorites from the band. Well, you already know what this is, and so it's Bebop Deluxe's last album, Jurassic Plastic. Unlike
that cover.
Yeah, the cover is awful, man. And you would wish that being that they just remastered this, that they would put something nicer on there. And the cover just gets worse and worse the more you look at it.
Yeah, it's not good.
You know what? Say what you will about the cover, but I bet you Chris Alla would rock that T-shirt.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Oh man. Well, this was Bill Nelson, he was becoming more disgruntled, being that as great as the band was, people still compared them to David Bowie. And, as much as he loved David Bowie, he wanted to make a name for himself. So this album is less of the guitar histrionics and more towards the electronic phase that he would go into during the 80s. It's a fine album, like I said, but in comparison to what he did before, Modern Music, Sunburst Finish, Futurama, and then their debut, Axe Victim, this is a much more tamer album. But for a last closing album, so this was a damn good album.
It has its moments. I mean, it's my least favorite out of all of them, but I still think it has its moments.
It does.
Barry, you know what? Every Bebop Deluxe album is different than the one that came before it.
Yep.
And I really think that they predated and started a lot of what we came to call as kind of new wave, which happened afterwards. I mean, you listen to a lot of stuff on those early albums. That's what you would hear from so many bands just a couple of years later. Yeah, what a guitar player.
Oh, he's insane.
Great tone. My favorite is the live album.
Oh man, I've been telling people about that, Live in the Air Age, man. It's a
and they're
album.
going to re-release it. I think they're going to do a new.
Well, they have to. They've done the whole catalog. They got it right. It's like my shelf won't look the same without the version up there. Before I forget, I just Mr. Lamie, you got to show off the shirt that you're wearing. I mean, I'm just like,
oh, hey, I love it. I love it. Killer songs, no softies.
Available now in the Sea of Tranquility store. The link is below. Go get yourself one, man. That's the brand. All right. Chuck, I'm absolutely amazed that you didn't pick this one. I've had it sitting in the wings the whole time, but now I'm going to get a chance to do it. So by all intents and purposes, yeah. It's late. From the horse's mouth, this is probably going to be the last album from this great legendary band. But again, you never know. But I decided to say, okay, if Peter Hamill says this is probably the last Van de Graaff Generator album, Do Not Disturb is a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, it really is, man.
Right? I mean, this is good stuff. Again, one of those bands, have they ever released a bad album?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
They're all very Van de Graaff-ish, caustic and angry and dissonant and everything you love about Van de Graaff Generator. And it's only Peter, Guy Evans, and Hugh Banton on this, and
the three of them together, the noise.
Yeah. I miss Mr. Jackson on this album, but it's like he hasn't been in the band for a number of years now, but it's still noisy, fun, just out there Van de Graaff. And you listen to this and you're thinking, oh, these guys could keep going on and on and on, right? But I don't know. So far, this was 2016, I think, something like that.
2016.
So it's already been 5 years. Like I said, Peter kind of hinted that would be it. So we'll see. But I'm going to take it as if that might be the last. And if it is, 2 thumbs
it's
up.
a damn good finish.
Yeah. Anybody got any honorable mentions? I know we went through a lot.
Honorable mentions. All right. Well, I have a band that was influenced by Bebop Deluxe. Theirs is more they're kind of like they were, like, I would say that they were probably a bit more synth popish, and so at times.
George gets up in his chair, just takes that song.
Oh man,
Sorry, Chuck.
We dare not mention, who. The art rock band from Japan, Tin Drum.
Uh-huh.
All right. Anything that they did beforehand, and so in comparison to this album is totally different. Another band that as they went onward, and so their sound changed, and I don't think anybody knew what to do with them. They really weren't a new wave band, and they really didn't like being called an art rock band, but that's what they were. And this stuff was quite progressive for its time. Less than 40 minutes and everything on there. Once again, we go back to the late Nick Carn and David Sylvian. These two guys at this time, they were at each other's throats, man. But you could either, and then we could also go with Rain Tree Crow as well. Forgive me, Rain Tree Crow as well as their last album. But that's my pick right there. Tin Drum, Japan.
Yeah, they often come up in discussions of bands that should have been, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
look who they influenced. Duran took their sound and their look. Mm-hmm. And we're nowhere near as good as they were.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else?
I had two. Easily, both of them could have made my proper list, but I knocked them out because they both only have 2 releases. So I went with bands with a little longer arc. But Sean Lane, Tritone Fascination.
Mm-hmm.
Very sad that was all for him.
Mm-hmm.
And
great choice.
Boys.
Hell yeah.
You're killing me.
In the Sun Cage vein, because it's Marcel again. To me, just as good. The production's a little on the lo-fi side, but really, really good.
Was that a demo that they released?
No, I don't know why the production's a little lo-fi, but it's not so much. It's just not what we're all used to now, but great record.
Yeah, no, that was a good band too. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't even, there's a bunch of really good ones from the Magna Carta label, like final albums from some of those bands. I mean, like Shadow Gallery and Enchant. Is Enchant done? I don't even know. They haven't released it.
Well, being that their lead singer is now in Kansas.
Yeah, I guess.
But he had left Kansas. Actually, forgive me. He had left Enchant, I think, before that, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't heard anything from them in quite some time. And that's another damn good band. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Enchant.
Been with Spock's Beard now for how many years, right?
Sheesh. Yeah. Oh boy, like since the early 2000s. No, the late 2000s.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Magellan's another one. So, Louis, you got any others?
I got a couple. I only have one to show, but I wanted to mention National Health, Diez Alcoda.
Yeah, it was on my list.
I love that record. I have it. I have the one where it's all 3 albums in one that I got from Steve.
Yep.
I mean, National Health is one of those bands that just all of them. They're
an amazing band.
And I guess with Sean Malone's death, Cynic kindly bent to free us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
George, didn't you mention that before, Sean? George, didn't you mention that before? That's the Cynic album before?
I don't think so.
Somebody mentioned the Cynic album before.
Yeah, they were mentioned on one show. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, Cynic is just one of my. I mean, I love that band.
Yeah.
I mean, their version of Veil of Maya is amazing, and just so many great tracks. But without Sean Malone, there's basically nothing, right? That was his band.
It's a totally different band.
And the last one though that I can show is I mean, I don't know if it's really their last one. It's been a long time, and Egos being Egos, I think it may still be the last thing out, considering that their bass player had that terrible accident and still not recovered, Juan Alderete. So of course I'm talking about the Mars Volta.
Yeah.
And Nocturnicate. Now, a lot of people don't like this record. I'm not sure why. I think that it continues. It's the natural next step in the revolution. What this thing does, it just takes their sound and puts more of an electronic element into it.
Mhm.
But it's still, there's nothing that sounds like this, right?
Mhm.
And I love that record. I always hope they would continue. I was lucky enough that I did get a chance to see them opening for System of a Down.
Mhm.
in this giant
Blew them
room
away.
in Baltimore.
Blew them away. And System of a Down is a pretty damn good band, but
Oh, they were both
you know,
great, but Mars Volta,
they
I
were
mean,
awesome. Mhm.
that singer is like seeing a Mexican cross between, Robert Plant
Yeah.
and one of these soul singers.
Mhm.
His movements. It was his gyrations. It was crazy, right? So and the whole band were just phenomenal, right?
Mhm.
James Brown is what comes to mind when you think about how he plays and sings.
Uh,
They were a phenomenal band. But the
Mhm.
thing about them is they came out, all they did is just kill everyone mercilessly, and then they left without ever saying a word.
Mhm. And no reason. My thing is that I just don't understand why they broke up. Mhm.
Because they were charting globally.
Yeah. Mhm.
They were doing well.
Mhm.
So suddenly they just were sick of each other, the main two guys. And that was the
Yeah.
end, right?
Yep. Mhm.
But so I have to think that that's probably the end for sure. But so I could be wrong, but I love this record. So I had
So
to
do I.
mention Mars
Mhm.
Volta.
Mhm. We're the only two Mars Volta fans here.
I guess so.
I've tried. It just,
I love this band.
Mhm.
I just love it.
George, have you ever listened to Maya Dome?
Yeah. Yeah, they were good.
Man, what happened? Whatever happened to them?
The drummer was the main guy, and he made a new band called Lock Vostok, and they're still going.
Oh, that is his band. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Okay.
he sings in that band and plays bass.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Another honorable mention. It's one of those albums that that usually doesn't get much praise. The last Pink Floyd album, The Endless River. It's a very, very melodic album. Which are very haunting. It's just you really wish that these guys would have ended out with a much more banger of an album. Pink Floyd, what's a being that they left that Roger Waters had left them, despite David Gilmour having the name of the band. And so this was totally different without him. But I still think that the album was strong. I don't think it was a great album, but I still think that that they ended very well. I'm just probably one of the few people that think like that when it comes to that album.
I was just happy to see something from them
Mhm.
before, rather than just disappearing off into the sunset. It was kind of cool. It was a kind of really mellow, kind of dreamy final statement from the band. Yeah, would we have liked a different kind of album? Sure, but I don't mind it. I know a lot of people shit all over it, but I don't mind.
I don't mind it, but is it a good Pink Floyd record?
No.
Right, and that's the thing is like if your name is Pink Floyd, that carries a lot of weight.
Yep.
I think there's a reason why many of those were just like jams that existed but were never went anywhere. It's ironic because that was the argument that David Gilmour used on the final cut, right? Like if these were rejects to the wall, why are we putting them on now?
Right.
You could also argue that, well, Richard Wright is dead and this is a good way to sort of close the circle. Fair enough. But you have to be really, really stoned to enjoy it. For me, speaking for myself, right? If you're really, really out there, then it's great. But otherwise, it's a little too mellow.
It
So
really
if you look
is,
at the Division Bell, then is the last official album. That's not too bad.
Division Bell is, you can't say anything bad about it. I think.
No, that's an excellent album. But I just like the fact that they ended, like you said, they just put a close to the entire chapter. Was it Rush with Clockwork Angels? No, but just the fact that you said that, as Luis mentioned, they closed the chapter on the band. Very few bands. It's just a shame, like you said. Rick White, that he's been dead for quite some time now, and Pink Floyd is no longer.
Yeah. Oh well. All right, my honorable mention today. Did I have anything? Well, let me just get this one out of the way first. Max Webster, Universal Juvenile.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
This is to me, a pretty strong album. I mean,
No,
this
it really is.
way to go out, right? You know, a little bit more, maybe less of a prog album like some of their early stuff, and a little more kind of straightforward, just hard rock and whatnot. But still, it's got all those quirky Max Webster isms. You know, Kim Mitchell, great guitar playing, just really, really good tracks on there. And the only other ones on my list that we didn't mention today, the last from Harmonium. They have Todd,
Nice album.
76, Argent Counterpoints from 75. That's a pretty
Nice
good album.
Nice.
And I thought maybe Chuck would mention this one, but It's Only a Movie from Family.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Not a bad final album.
No, that's a pretty good album.
Yeah.
But like you said, everything that came beforehand is what people know them for. You know, especially the album before, Bandstand.
Yeah.
You know, which John Wetton's last album, second and last album with them.
Yep.
It's a fine, good album.
Yep. So there you have it, everybody. I think we covered a lot of ground here today. We really didn't duplicate much at all, which is
no.
So, yeah. We did not check with each other beforehand. So we just so in the comments below, put down some of your favorite final albums from a prog rock, prog metal, or jazz fusion band. That's the final album that they're doing. Well, we had a couple that may or may not be the final, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess. So far, it's looking like final. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. And each and every Tuesday night here in the Prog Seat for Chuck Alvarez, George Lamie, and Luis Nasser. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
No softies here, just killer songs. Bye, everybody.